What's up, guys? We're back with another episode of the Yankees Farm Report. We did have an interview planned for this week, but pushed it back to the Rule 5 draft that just happened yesterday, and all the IFA questions that we've been getting. So we decided to answer some of those things, and hopefully we could do the interview next week. So just to dive right into it, we'll talk about the Rule 5 draft, how it worked, how it went for the Yankees, and then we'll just pivot to IFAs. The Rule 5 was yesterday. In the MLB portion, the Yankees did not lose anyone, which was a bit surprising to the both of us, right?
Yeah, I mean, since 2014, I think was the last time the Yankee hasn't been picked.
hmm I thought Zach Messenger was going to go. I was absolutely certain that was going to happen. But you did hit me up a few days ago. You were like, you know what? I'm looking at stuff. I'm looking at teams, and I don't think so. There's a possibility that he might not go. And I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's two dudes that didn't go that I really assumed throughout baseball were going to go. I mean, the kid Webb from Cleveland, I assumed that he was going to be the number one overall pick, and I was looking at him like I don't really see a team that really needs that fit for Zach Messenger right now to throw him on a thing because I think he's a starter. He
hmm
is. I mean, he's going to give you innings. He's not a bullpen piece, man. It's not like he's running up 98, 90, 99 every pitch. So at the end of the day, I saw it where, he's now a AAA depth piece where if
hmm
somebody gets injured, he's right there to get a call up to the major leagues. And we got to talk to Cam Schlittler last week and he really gave high praise to Zach Messenger, man. So I mean that's great to keep that kind of guy in our organization.
Yeah, I'm big on Zach. What I like about him is that, like you said, he eats innings, right? He may not do a 10, 11, 12K per nine, but he is definitely a guy who will definitely keep you in the ball game, and he's going to eat innings for you. Another guy that I thought might go was Bailey Dees, and that didn't happen as well.
Yeah, he's another big time arm, man. I like I said, if Messenger wasn't going, I didn't think Dees was gonna go. But like I said, same scenario. I think now he goes up to AAA, can be a depth piece. I mean, you have a full rotation at AAA going forward now.
Yeah. So the Yankees definitely got lucky in the Rule 5 draft. They didn't have to deal with that. And, as you said earlier, it's been a decade since that last happened for them. So, I mean, they have to be happy with that. Um, on the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft, they were not as lucky. They lost Joel Valdez, who was at high A. He's 24 years old, lefty. I tweeted about him yesterday. He had a pretty good season. I think he kept left-handed hitters under, I want to say like 190, if I'm not mistaken. Another guy they lost was Blane Abeyta, who was at Somerset but was demoted to Hudson Valley. Gabriel Barbosa, who was at Tampa, he had a pretty good season. Mixed bag for him. And then I think the biggest, or for me, um, the one guy that they did lose was Joel Mendez, who I thought was pretty good at the FCL in back-to-back seasons. But unfortunately, I think he was more of he was overlooked in the organization. He's an outfielder, and there's just at that level they have so many outfielders. So I'm happy for him moving on to Pittsburgh. He'll probably get more opportunities there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I feel like that was Yankees always lose people in the Rule 5. They usually get one or two guys too in the minor league portion of it. So I mean, it's kind of you just take it where it goes. Those guys are depth pieces. Usually don't make it within our organization, but you can always dream on it.
Yeah, and I think they added one guy. I think it was Luis Durango, Cleveland outfielder. From what I remember, they signed him in 2019. Didn't debut until 21. Good contact, walks, and he does rack up a lot of stolen bases. Other than that, I don't know too much about him. I still have to look into him some. Um, and then moving on to which probably, well, before we move on, um, I want to move on. I want to talk about the IFAs, and what's in the Yankees offseason, what's been going on in terms of signing free agents with qualifying offers. Um, in the 2024 season, or for the 2024 class, the Yankees still have, before last night, or at the beginning of yesterday, sorry, they had 1.4 million on hand. And last night they pulled off a trade, trading Carlos Narvaez to Boston. And Boston sent back their 13th ranked kid, along with $250,000 to the Yankees, putting them probably around 1.7, I'm imagining, or somewhere around that neighborhood. You liked the move, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean to move off of Narvaez, you had five catchers on the 40 man.
Mhm.
I heard on the Yankees hot stove they talked about JC Escar pretty heavily on there, and they protected Jesus Rodriguez, who's a great bet. I think at the end of the day, I think this just signals that Trevino is going to go back. I don't think they wanted to go two young catchers there. I think
Hmm.
that's, we've talked about that as well.
Hmm.
But I like the move because you got a high end potential arm, and you also added $250,000. Now, I think people don't realize that, if you take money and you can move some of these kids from 2025 over to 2024, and you save money in that class, that could be used towards other pieces that maybe, either get you possibly Roki Sasaki. Not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying you never know. But also, there could be a team where a player falls out because of Roki Sasaki and the Yankees like that player. Now you have that money left over where you can go and grab that kid.
Yeah, I think it was a great move. One aspect that I did want to touch on regarding Carlos Narvaez, you have to think about it, right? Carlos Narvaez was, I think he was a 40, $50,000 signing, and they pretty much turned him into a trade for $250,000 and the 13th round ranked prospect in the Boston system. He's now the 12th ranked prospect in the Yankee system. That's a win-win. That to me, in my book, that's a win-win. I wanted Carlos Narvaez to be the backup, but like you said, I don't think the Yankees want to go too young. I know they like Trevino. My thinking was that it was an area where they could save money if they were able to move off Trevino, but due to the fact that they didn't sign Juan Soto, maybe that's not necessarily the case for them anymore. Um, so it was a win for them last night in terms of adding to their IFA money. It gives them another, what is it? On the 15th, December 15th is the final day to sign 2024 class players. So it gives the Yankees a few more days, like you said, to push guys from the 25 class into the 24 pool, saving them money and potentially letting them sign a kid later on in the season. Or, we've been hearing about how they're making a big presentation to Roki Sasaki. I think we're both in agreement with. We don't see that happening, but stranger things have happened. I hope it happens. I wish it'll happen, but I just don't see it happening, especially based off of the things that his agent has been saying that he's wanted to play in a smaller market. Yeah, I'm assuming he doesn't like the bright lights from the media in those big markets, is my assumption. So I don't see it. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't think he ends up as a Yankee either. I mean, and I think a lot of his presentation is he's looking for a team that's good at developing pitchers, and I feel like it might, I know we've reported on it before that I think it's the Dodgers, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Padres and the Mariners are front and center too now, because especially with developing pitchers, if that's a big thing, it's a softer landing market for him, and that team already has five disgusting starters that they've grown. I mean, that might be a perfect, fit right there.
And not to take away from this, but I did want to point out that the Yankees have been very good at developing pitchers. Um, and they have the Matt Blake factor, which has boded well for them with certain players or certain pitchers. So that is something that they could pitch to Roki about their development of pitchers and getting them through each level and up to the major leagues. I don't know if Roki immediately goes to the major leagues. What is your thinking on that? Will he start at
No,
AAA or they'll just put him right to the
he's
major
gonna
leagues?
start in the majors. He's gonna start in the majors regardless. I think at the end of the day, I think if you're the Yankees, your presentation has to be endorsements,
Hmm.
uh, our pitching, which is where I would say, look at Clark Schmidt, look at Luis Heel, who just won Rookie of the Year. We can pitch off of those things. I'd also say that you're going to pitch with a great pitcher like Garrett Cole. We just picked up Max Fried. Those are pitchers there that have had success, and you can also work with and learn from and pick up little tidbits. I think that would be my pitch to him. And then the family aspect. I would like to see bringing in Tanaka and Matsui to kind of be in that pitch there if you're going to really go in there and show that we can kind of have that family aspect that we're here and kind of maybe work on how we can kind of shield him out of the media a little bit. Like not always forefront, but if he's basically saying that he's had a hard time in Japan with the media, then I would say maybe we can cut your media time down because I don't think you can cut it out, but you can cut it down.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that would definitely be something that I would pitch to him. Um, the thing for me also is that if you're able to actually sign Roki, then that might help with if they go after Murakami in the following season. I think did he re-sign or is he gonna be a free agent in 26?
I think he took a 1 year deal and he basically said that's his last year in Japan.
Yeah, so that might help with that as far as recruiting, if that's an avenue they want to pursue. I mean, I know Steinbrenner does want to reopen the Japanese pipeline, so I mean, we'll see how it goes for them. But from our understanding is, we just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Um, the last thing, the
Well,
kid
we
that
didn't
the
touch up the rules, right? You wanted to touch
oh
up the
right,
rules too. So,
um,
all right,
go ahead, you
go
can
ahead.
go into it.
So, I mean, I know that Carl's been getting a lot of questions, so I'm going to answer this stuff. So, um, when you sign a qualifying offer player, you lose your second, and you're over the CBT. You lose your second and your fifth highest draft picks in a draft class, as well as $1 million international free agency money. If you sign a second player, you lose your third and sixth highest picks, as well as your as another $1 million on your international pool. The how it works is if let's say we wanted to sign, we had our bonus pool is $6 million, and we sign for instance 7 qualifying offer dudes, you lose your entire bonus pool for that year, and then you lose $1 million the following year as well. So it will pull over until you meet that requirement. So if we signed 7 qualifying offer free agents, which would never happen, but if you did and it was 6 million, you'd pay the 6 million of the following year, which in this case would be 2026, and then you'd also pay 1 million in 2027. On top of that, if the Yankees had $6 million, and you lose and you sign 3 guys, so let's say you sign Max Fried, that's done. Let's say you sign Christian Walker and Teoscar Hernandez, those are your three. Now you only have $3 million to work with. Of that, when you can trade up to 60% of your bonus pool of your starting pool. So if your pool is 3 million, you can trade up to 1.8 million. The problem is we have a player named Wandy Asijan that's in the class. Wandy Asijan's getting over $3 million next year. If you don't have that money come January 15th of 2026, he is not going to wait for you. You cannot ask him to say, "Hey, I'm going to pay you later
Give you
on.
an
I'm going to work
IOU.
on getting this." Yeah. IOUs don't work in the international market. There's a team that's going to say, "Wow, Wandy, the number 1 or 2 kid in this class is available. You know what? Let's give him $4.5 million." Yankees barely can get up to that. And you have to also have teams that will play ball and trade. A lot of teams don't trade in the beginning of the market. So they trade usually in the middle or the end of the market, after halfway the year is done. Wandy's going to want to be in an organization that's going to develop him, grow him, and get him ready to play in the Dominican Summer League or the FCL right away at the end of the day. So when you talk about are certain players worth it, I'm going to say no. Christian Walker is not going to be worth signing a second year to. Plus, the first base market next year includes players like Luis Arraez, Murakami, like we just said, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I'm not going to lock into a player like Christian Walker, who's 34 years old, when I can bring in any of those 3 players, and they also fit a need that I have as well. Luis Arraez with contact, Murakami with power, left-handed power, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., best first baseman in baseball. Um, so you have those there, uh, and that market can be next year. And if you're gonna spend on, let's say for example, of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., you're gonna lose $1 million in 2027. I'm okay with that. That's one of the best players in baseball. You do that if you can get a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You don't do that for a Christian Walker to lose 2 million and possibly lose 4 draft picks on top of also losing Wandy Asijan.
Another thing that I've read about Walker, I think I saw it from Krishner. Um, he was talking about that Walker wanted 25 million per. To me, that's just crazy. To me,
No,
that's just crazy. Especially if he's looking at a three, and I've read that he might even have a 4-year deal. I would pass on that. I'm not big on Santana, but I'm willing to take a 1-year flyer on him. I don't know if you could platoon him with another player, but if what you're looking to get is the defensive aspect of first baseman, or you want a glove first guy, then Santana could be your guy for real cheap. He doesn't have a qualifying offer attached to him. It's patchwork for a year.
No, I don't disagree. I think that you hit that right on the head. I mean, Santana's a perfect, him or Goldschmidt, perfect
Either
fits
or.
right there at first base. I think either one of them, you can't go wrong with them. Santana, I like his on base skills, but
Hmm.
I think Goldschmidt's gonna. I mean, what is he? 2 years removed from an MVP. I mean, at the end
Hmm.
of the day, I would give him an opportunity to run in here and be a good bat for the New York Yankees for a year, and then, like I said, dip into the first base market next year. That's what a smart team would do.
And I know some people have been saying, you shouldn't let a qualifying offer affect your decision. But I think you got to be smart about it, right? Because the system as it is barren. Because Cashman has been trading a lot of the top prospects, left and right. I think it was what over 30 in the last couple of years or whatever it may be. Um, and as far as IFAs, that's the one area where the Yankees should be excelling at, right? Because that's the only time they're going to be able to get an elite prospect, right? Through the draft, they're always picking at the bottom of the rounds. They're not always going to get the best available players. And in through the IFA market, that's the one place where they can balance that out.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's why, and with Wandy Asijan being, like I said, one or two in his class, depending on who you ask, um, you don't want to give that up. I mean, the kid is a beautiful left-handed swing, can play shortstop, may move to third because he grows to 6'3", 6'4". Um, that could happen. But at the end of the day, I'm going to take my odds on signing a kid that has that potential. And if let's say he hits in his first 2 years, that's worth more than Christian Walker. Would you trade a top 30, 40 prospect in baseball for Christian Walker right now, plus $25 million a year? I don't think anybody's saying yes to that, and not at 34. And at the end of the day, man, I don't think you're punting on the season by getting a Goldschmidt, because if Goldschmidt comes in and hits 30 home runs at a 270 clip and plays good defense, and you don't have to give up any prospects or any picks for him, I'd rather do that on a 1 year deal than give out a 4 year deal for a Christian Walker. It just doesn't make sense.
And you got to think also, if you look back, how much production did you get out of first base last year?
Nothing. And then you're going to
Pretty much
produce
nothing,
more for
right?
anybody. And any of those guys you sign, like you say, Carlos Santana, man, I think he put up 23 home runs, played gold glove defense for Minnesota this year. And I mean, that's a player that instantly makes your team better.
Yeah, for me, I would love to see Ben Rice get a legit shot, but I understand the Yankees are not going to do that because they don't want a first baseman learning on the job. They're not looking to do that, and I totally understand that. Maybe a platoon works out. I don't know, um, due to the trade of Narvaez, if they want him a little bit behind the plate a little bit more, or if JC Escarra is going to be their quote unquote third catcher. But to me, those are just areas where you look to internally or add internal options, right? That don't cost you anything but whatever the minimum may be.
I could see. I mean, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but I could see Ben Rice in a trade package. I mean that
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. I've seen a lot of that stuff. But again, to me, my biggest thing is I understand that trades are going to happen, right? But what sometimes I don't understand is the trades that this front office does. They don't make any sense. That's where my issue typically lies.
I think, like I said, man, the front office at this point here, um, realistically, I think they're giving their young guys an opportunity more, which I like to see. I think they're still barren on the pitching front. They're not giving the pitchers as much chance right now as they are hitters. I mean, especially if they go young with Durbin and Dominguez this year. I think asking for three, starters would be pretty, a stretch for this front office as youngsters. So that's why I agree with you on Ben Rice. I think if you're gonna go Durbin and you're gonna go Dominguez, I just don't see how they go three young kids.
Yeah, I think we're going to go into the season, or our thinking is they go into the season with Dominguez and Durbin in the lineup every day,
Yeah, correct.
barring injuries. What's the last thing you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Kyle Tucker, man. We'll talk about like what we see the Yankees doing the rest of the year, man. So I'll start with Kyle Tucker. I think that's the perfect fit for New York. Put him in left field. I've been
Hmm.
seeing a lot of trade packages. I'll be honest with you, I really fiddle with this for a lot. I think I got a perfect trade package that makes a lot of sense for that. Um, I think, like I said, I think it starts with Luis Heel. You're gonna take the opportunity to move a guy who had an unbelievable year. But Seattle did that with the Yankees, right? And the Yankees did that too back with Michael Pineda. He had a really good year in
Hmm.
Seattle. They moved him out. The question is, what Luis Heel are we getting? Are we getting first half Luis Heel or second half Luis Heel? Was it a tired arm or is it just, the league caught up to him and now he's got to make adjustments? I think realistically, if you put him in a trade package for Kyle Tucker, I think that's a smart move. I think the second piece there should be Ben Rice. I think Ben Rice there makes a lot of sense. I'd also put in Oswaldo Cabrera. I love Oswaldo Cabrera. I think he's a great piece for the Yankees. He can play everywhere, man, throughout the diamond. I don't want to give him up, but I think that for third base, they're going to look to get a corner player, and I think Oswaldo Cabrera could hold his own, whether it's as a utility man or an overall player. I think you're gonna give up a Poteet or a Brew Breaker in this trade. That gives him a number five starter, some pitching depth there in this trade. And then the last thing, and this is going to be contingent on an extension. So I think if they don't get an extension, so I asked for a 30 days. So once this trade goes through, 30 days. If an extension goes through and we get him an extension within 30 days, I give Spencer Jones up. If the extension doesn't go through, then I'm giving it to Everson Pereira. But it has to be done within 30 days.
So you want like an exception to the trade.
Correct. I think that it's a player to be named later, and it's contingent on you would get either one of these players, but it's depending on if an extension gets done with Kyle Tucker.
I think he's not a Boris client, is he?
No, he's not.
No. But I've been reading about how he wants to test the market. So I mean, I'm not sure how true that is, but I mean, bro, the way that these some of these free agents, young free agents, have been getting money or that bag is just insane. I mean, I gotta imagine that Ronald Acuna has to be upset at himself for taking that deal. But then again, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because if you get injured, then what?
And he does. He gets injured a lot. I mean, but yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. He's
it's a risk to both. It's a risk on both sides. I mean, you can gamble like Juan Soto did. He gambled when he said, "I don't want. I'll turn down your $450 million, and I'll see what the market offers me." I mean, he pretty much damn near doubled his money.
did, and with a bunch of perks too. I mean, he got
Hmm.
everything he wanted. I mean, the Mets gave him everything that he
Hmm.
wanted. He asked for, they gave it to him. I mean, how can you can't top that. And I can't be mad at Steinbrenner. He gave an unbelievable offer, man. He came out there, and I think for him, it was probably something that he didn't even feel comfortable with giving out
Hmm.
760, I mean, I don't know a lot of people that would be, matching an offer like that.
I mean,
So I give him credit.
yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm upset that that Juan Soto left, but I'm also upset that I don't know. I didn't think that he was that kind of player, right? I thought he was good here, but you're talking about almost a $50 million difference. Yeah, it's a hell of a lot of money to just leave on the table like that. And especially, when you constantly feel like the organization doesn't have your back on certain things. And I know that maybe it's just petty nonsense from the Boris camp, like that his dad couldn't get into the clubhouse, but I think there's an MLB rule for that anyways, that stems
Yep.
back from the PED era. That his people got blocked from going here or there, or weren't allowed into the clubhouse, or he wasn't given a suite. I mean, I think that's all ticky-tacky nonsense, but uh, it is what it is, man. And I'm ready to move on. Like I said, I've been ready to move on. I was tired of all the nonsense, the clickbait from all the reporters. Just a lot of nonsense was going on with Juan Soto, and I wanted it to be done. So I mean, I'm happy for him. I'm upset as a Yankee fan, but it is what it is. Ready to move on.
And I don't disagree. I think that at the end of the day, man, I think if you can replace Juan Soto with a Max Fried and a Kyle Tucker to start, I think you did a great job already. Because I was looking at some stuff this year, and Kyle Tucker changed his swing. So he used to finish down, and now he's finishing through. And I feel like that's why he was like on par to be an MVP candidate, if not leading the MVP candidate before he fouled the ball off his shin. I mean, that dude was on track to hit 45, 50 home runs. And if that can happen for him, I mean, that's with the defense he plays. I mean, you're starting to look at a player like, you know, might be top 10 in all baseball, if not top five, if he's hitting 40 plus home runs with great defense in left field, which is the hardest position to play in Yankee Stadium.
So if they are able to pull off the Tucker deal, what happens on Bellinger? You think they still go after Bellinger? And if they do, where is he gonna play?
See, this is a hard one for me, right? Because, well, Bellinger would play first base.
Hmm.
It's a tough one for me, right? Because I don't want it to be where they go and get Bellinger and then say, well, we're just going to put him in center field. And
Hmm.
now you block Dominguez, right?
Yeah.
Because I think
Hmm.
Dominguez has to play. I
Yes.
don't like well, he has a lane now. That's their famous lane that
Yeah.
wording that they like to use. Now they have a lane.
Hmm.
I don't like that. Well, now there's a lane for him to play. No, he needs to get reps. You sign this dude for $5.1 million in the international market. He's been
Hmm.
called the Martian. He's got this high ceiling. If he gives me 30-30 this year and plays, above average defense, which I think he can do in center field, it's just
Hmm.
all about the routes. You know, I'm taking that all day, every day, especially if you
Yeah.
got Kyle Tucker in left field, Judge in right field. It's hard, man. I don't hate Bellinger at first base, but I feel like does bringing Bellinger in for first base take you out of the first base market next year? That's where, if as a Yankee fan, I wouldn't love that because I just feel like Murakami is especially if I'm Hal Steinbrenner. Murakami's going to give me everything I want because he's going to give me that Japanese market, best hitter supposedly since Godzilla power wise. You know what I'm saying? So, um, you bring him over if he can play first base, great. And you're getting a guy who's going to hit 30, 40 home runs in Yankee Stadium for you. Um, I want that. Or if you get Vladimir Guerrero Jr., which is a tougher one, I feel like that's a pill you got to swallow with him and kind
Hmm.
of talk him over because he didn't like how certain things were handled with his dad. But I mean, but at the end of the day, if you can realistically get either one of those guys, I'm taking that over anybody you're going to throw at first base this year anyway. I mean, both of them.
Yeah, I hated the whole has a lane thing or he'll be an option, but so the vernacular wasn't the same for Durbin, right?
Yeah, there's no lane. Exactly. I think it's ridiculous, man. I mean, I mean the listen, Durbin, I think that they look at him like as just like a little like he's a rat. You know what I'm saying? Like he's just everywhere, and
Hmm.
that's just what he plays like, man. He's a little rat. I remember I was hanging out with this guy and we were talking football for a minute, watching TV, and he'd be like, "Oh, New England gets all these little like rat wide receivers. They're just everywhere." You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's Durbin, man. He's just all over the field, but
Wes Welker.
Dominguez is, yeah, yeah, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, all those
Hmm.
guys, man, just little rats. They just find a way. I think that's Durbin, man, and I think that the way they look at Durbin is even if he's a rookie, we feel comfortable with putting him in the leadoff, spot. Whereas
Hmm.
I think Dominguez, man, they see that there's still more room to grow, and they've even said it. All of them have said it on the TV. They feel like, he's not a finished product, which we know. No,
He's not
everybody
right.
knows he's not.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, I mean, his ceiling is I would say it's one or two in the system, or maybe even top three or four. It depends on where you see certain players, but his ceiling is up there, man. I mean,
Hmm.
you're not beating that. So I would give him a shot in center field and let's see what he's got. Because if, like I said, he's a 30-30 player, I mean, you're not beating that.
Yeah, man, I think he's definitely an exciting player, and I've already said, man, they need to give him 500 at bats this season and see how it goes for them. You already out of one of your outfield spot last year, you got pretty much nothing, so he can't be much worse than that.
Exactly. That's all. That's the player he's got to compete against is Verdugo. I mean,
Hmm.
if you get Kyle Tucker's gonna have to produce against Soto, and that's okay. I'm not upset with that. I feel comfortable that he can do that, especially if the swing changes were legit and he continues on the progress that he had
Or if
there.
he's hitting, or if Judge is hitting behind him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen. I think Judge will take a step back. I don't see another 58 home run season for him. I'd be
No, but
shocked
still,
if there was.
he'll provide a lot of protection for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, you can't walk Kyle Tucker. And if you do, I mean, Kyle Tucker is not afraid to, like I said, put a swing on a bat that on a ball that goes far. So
Yeah, I don't think it's any mistake that Juan Soto had his best season, probably his best season, with Judge hitting behind him.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. If you got nothing else, I think we're gonna head out on that. Nope.
That's it.
All right, guys. We'll catch you again next week. Probably gonna be an interview. I'll tweet about it during the week about who it is. But thanks again for tuning in, guys. Have a good one.